So we know these are backwards.
But we also know that you all are smart and can read backwards. Hi.
Hi. We are here to tell you about this place we went and saw yesterday.
9461 Sunrise Road, Blaine, Washington.
Yeah, and we thought we could start with a little bit of a grounding or centering moment or a prayer, if that word works for you. So if you want to, you can join us in that, or you could skip ahead 40 seconds or so. I'm going to close my eyes and just connect my own core self down into the ground, into the earth beneath me, and open my heart and my imaginations to the beings that we'll send this video out to, and just feel that connection of our community and group of people who are coming together with good intentions and complex experiences and complex desires, histories, and a lot of love and generosity toward each other and the future itself, and as well as a deep desire to be in deeper stewardship to both a family, a community, and the land and the people around that land, those lands, and the spirits of those lands. So holding all of that and honoring too the ancestral lineage of the Lummi people and the Nooksack people, whose tribal lineages and ancestors sort of surround this area that this house and land are on. So holding up and calling in those lineages as they wish to show up to support this conversation and our project, and enter our hearts and imaginations as we think about asking permission to live on those colonized lands. Okay.
So we wanted to start out with kind of a quick dive into how complex this whole situation is and how that kind of like complexity and tension wove its way into our experience of going and looking at land, and that feeling really like, yeah, it feels super intense in our hearts to be prospecting land and shopping for property.
Yeah, and like after we drove away from this house, like, I mean, I think both of us felt kind of like a rippling anxiety or tension that like showed up and became clear because like we made the understandable mistake of trying to like talk logistics first, like, oh, what'd you think? How did you like the bathrooms or something? And then like it turning into feeling like we were like in conflict or fighting. But then I think like coming to a realization that more what was underneath that was like, oh, there's like deeper turmoil and shame here around like being colonizers of this land, and a desire to like stop this conversation right now and pray and honor the spirits of it, and before like moving much more forward.
Yeah, which is why we wanted to start this conversation with that, and yeah, led us to be able to kind of think more about the other stuff also in a less kind of tense way. So
yeah, cool. So I think our like purpose and intention of doing this video in this way is to get like each of you who are either already a part of the decision-making body of this land project, or folks who are like thinking about joining or close to joining, kind of on the same page about this first property that we went and looked at. And also hopefully so that at our next land meeting, we won't have to take a lot of time doing this, and instead, like, if there's time built into that meeting, it can be more discussion forward about what we saw. So
yeah, so can I dive in?
Dive.
All right. It's a 40-acre plot, and it's like a fairly narrow, straight, long section of land. So you kind of come in off of Sunrise Road, and there's like the barn that's like ugly and metal, and there's kind of a little bit of open area and some forest, and then you drive further and you come to that hedge where there's this like triangular grass and all this beautiful landscaping, and then there's the house, and then behind the house there's this incredible, gorgeous, rushing creek just right behind the house. There's a little play set there, and then you cross over the bridge through some more kind of trees and shrubbery, and then there's this like big open pasture, like a big pasture, and then beyond the pasture the trees start again, and then you get to another, or like the creek winding its way back through, in which it's not crossable, and there's still probably a fifth of the property,
which is forested.
Which is all forested.
Mm-hmm. So we walked as far back as that second creek and weren't able to cross. I mean, it's crossable, but there's no bridge. I mean, there's certainly, it's not uncrossable, but
right.
There isn't a bridge there.
And in the winter, like right now, it was like probably 6 feet wide, maybe 7 even. But like the woman we were talking with said that when she was there in October, it was like barely a creek. So different, yeah. And I want to back up too and just say like about the area and like the driving up to the space, like that, you know, in Whatcom County, I think Gabe taught me that it's like perhaps the world's largest purveyor of raspberries. So there's a lot of monocropping farms like on the drive along the way, and then when you turn onto Sunrise Road, you kind of start to enter, you feel it, you start to enter like the forest, like you're getting away a little bit from that monocropping and like moving more towards forested area. And then around the plot of land, this is a place we have some questions that we're going to email the realtor and come with more answers to the meeting, but it seems like the owner of this property and the plot of land also own a 10-acre parcel that's directly next to this house and plot. So we're curious if he has plans for that 10 acres, like whether it's to like preserve it and leave it the way it is or later develop it. These things like seem like things to know, or perhaps sell it at one point. And then and there's another part that might possibly already be preserved. Right. So then the part that's kind of like, I think south of that also runs along the kind of length of this property that we looked at, is we're unsure about if it's preserved land or if it's owned by somebody, and that's something we're going to find out too, so we can have a better idea of like what's going on with the land immediately around us. There are 2 visible neighbors from the property. Like, they're not visible from the house itself. One of them is visible from the pasture, and one of them is visible from... Well, there's 3. Oh, 3. Cool. Yeah. One of them then is visible from like basically just right off the road. The neighbor's house is much closer to the road. Both houses are like, both the ones I'm remembering are like attractive looking houses. And, you know, the realtor that we saw yesterday said that she's spoken on the phone with a lot of the neighbors and they seem very nice. They're like all older people too. So I don't know, my mind goes on like, cool, so like soon they'll be selling their land and maybe we could get more of our friends to buy the houses and land around us. Like, and that's the thing about these sellers too, is that they're moving. They built the house in the 70s and they're moving just because they're like old and it's 40 acres and a pretty big house and they can't do it anymore. So the house and the land, I mean, it's all very well maintained. These people have been like meticulous at maintaining and keeping it. And you can really feel it in both the land and the house. So do you want to say about the other neighbor or just move on? No. Cool. What else? We were like pleasantly surprised by like I think they're having like a huge rain year, and we thought that everything was just going to be like pools of water, and there definitely were pools of water in some places, but it like wasn't as bad as we thought, and like the like manicured lawn itself like wasn't that gushy, which is nice because that indicates that we can probably grow stuff there pretty easily. And there's that like funny gazebo in the center that's actually really nice, and we were dreaming about hammocks and outdoor beds and outdoor kitchen or all sorts of things that we could use that for. There's a bunch of like weird nautical themed crap everywhere that is like hard to ignore, but like imagining without the spot without it is like really nice, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful. The whole place is beautiful.
I mean, the drive up, like the I think it's the woman who's been doing most of the landscaping herself, and something Gabe said yesterday has got to be true. Is it's just like thousands of dollars worth of plants and
really nice
labor,
plants, cherry trees,
lilacs, and like
really nice
and
stuff.
the realtor we were with yesterday said that she was there in the spring, and it's just like unbelievable. And you can tell. I mean, it's like, oh God, I just like I hope I could go there in the spring to see it, because it is really like just surround. Oh my God, the stuff that is planted around is unbelievable and gorgeous. And I think that like the big manicured lawn that surrounds the gazebo and is on one side of the house does seem like the ideal place to put a big ass food garden. And then, oh yeah.
Nothing.
And then like the plot where the barn is, which is right on the driveway in, like is, I mean, both that and the larger pasture seem to be pretty much ready to put livestock in if we wanted to do goats really soon. They're both like fenced all the way around. One of the questions we have is about, because the creek is a part of a creek preservation program, and so there's like some, on this map that the realtor had, there's some areas of like yellow line borders that have something to do with this preservation. So there's curiosity for us around like, what are the rules of those borders, or like what do the landowners how do the landowners help steward, and like what are the rules of stewardship around that? So like, for example, I'm curious, like, is livestock allowed in that big, what seems to be a pasture, so close to the creek? Anyway, but there's just like, it seems like there's also like a little shed barn. There's a few, like, houses on the property, too, so the shed barn thing that's right by the road is basically, like, ready to become a chicken coop. It would need, like, some building inside and perhaps, like, checking on how structurally sound it is or something, but, I mean, it's...
That one seems really nice.
It does, yeah. Seems pretty set up and could become a chicken coop. And so this is something that, like, feels exciting to me, is that it feels, like, really ready for, like, some things to get started pretty quickly, like goats and chickens, and like digging up the lawn to become a food garden.
Yeah. And it seems like there are spots where we could like have a yurt, have a temple, have our cob house that we want to build, like other things like that. Yeah, and then I think, how long do we want this to be?
I mean, I was imagining it could be up to a half hour, maybe a little past. I mean, it's going to take time.
Okay.
And I think we're stepping into slower processes, anti-capitalists. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. There's also, I was going to say about the land, there are some like more decrepit and fallen buildings, or like there's like an
outhouse that's like falling over.
Something that was probably used to be a barn or something like that. And then there's actually just like a pile of like logs.
Like Lincoln logs stacked, and that's confusing.
Totally. And like especially the fallen barn is like pretty hazardous looking in terms of like feeling comfortable about letting your kids just run free in this area. But so that's another question we're going to ask, is like, are those things being cleared off before we would purchase a possibility?
There's 2 wells, one of which is like the main well for the house, so that's good. The water's all well water. And the other well is closer to the barn, and it's just like a literal well. Like there's a brick ring around a fucking hole in the ground that's filled with water, and it's like got a lid on it right now, but it's like beautiful and creepy and magical and amazing.
It's a well for sensitive boys.
Obviously, it's a well for sensitive boys, but like we can't let Finn near it because he'll like fall into it.
There's a door that locks over the well, but it is a really mystical.
It's cool
thing.
And there's septic, which there's like 4 septic tanks that we noticed, and the lady said that, like, that's something that would be checked, like, it's required for them to,
During
in the inspection, they'll check how full it is, if anything's broken, and then if it's full, they're required to pay for getting it emptied. And then that's something that we do, like, she said it's, like, usually, like, 5 to 7 years to get your septic tanks emptied or whatever.
And it costs, like, $150 or something like that, so.
Oh, that's what she said?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, that's not very much.
Totally. So, yeah, I mean, you go.
We're still, like, there's a couple things, like, a question we had was, like, what are utilities like? The power in the house is electric and propane.
And wood. I mean,
they are considered under
fireplaces everywhere. We'll get to that, though. Yeah, so that's another question we're going to ask is, like, what generally are these utility bills? Though it's something to take with a grain of salt because it's, like, two little old people who've lived there forever, and I would imagine that, like...
We'll crank it up
once, like, the bulk of us are on there.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, we want to get off the grid to some extent, right? So, like, starting to think about solar and other things, too, so...
One other thing is just, like, it's just, like, there's an incredible diversity of trees in the, like, forest. Like, there's all these spruces and firs and cedars and tons of alder and maple, and there's, like, Nootka rose growing and Oregon grape and plenty of Himalayan blackberry and, so that was also just, like, really nice. It's just fucking beautiful.
It's really...
And the trees look healthy and happy, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's a watershed. There's this incredible salmon-bearing creek winding through the property. It's really gorgeous. Really, really... I mean, I think it's funny because when we first got there, and, you know, Sean, the original real estate guy, was like, oh, it'll take about an hour, maybe give or take 20 minutes. Some people take different amounts of time. And I texted back and I was like, would it be bad if we took, like, 2 hours? Like, it's very important to us to kind of walk the land and, like, whatever. And so it's just kind of funny because he, like, sent someone who works for him who is this, like, chill as fuck, really cool Bellingham woman who was, like, had her big tall boots on. And at some point we said something like, we're glad it was you that walked us around. Yeah. She was like, yeah, I think I was more the right speed for you guys. So. And
we took 2.5 hours to do the whole thing.
Yeah. And like when we got there, it was like, let's walk the land. Like we forgot there's a house. We were like, we just like walked as much of the 40 acres as we could. And it was, I mean, it was a beautiful walk. It was an amazing walk around this gorgeous creeked, wooded land.
Yep.
And it's just so cool that, like, right up tucked around the house, there's just this beautiful landscaping. And there's like a beautiful back porch and, you know,
that looks out over the creek and then over into the pasture.
And you could see, like, the swing set and the playhouse, the 2-story playhouse that there is right there. And
yeah, it's
dreamy as fuck all around.
The house itself, one side is red brick, it's beautiful, and it has this dark siding on it, and then the other sides are those weird, like, white stucco with the, like, square molding. It's got cedar shingles as a roof that are, like, pretty dirty, so that would also be something that they would have to take care of cleaning and, like, repairing any things. And then, yeah, the whole house, well, almost the whole house is this incredible wood flooring that's, like, in perfect condition. It's, like, really a nice, dark, super grained wood, and it has these, like, really prominent, beautiful, like, antique-looking nails that keep it down, so it's, like, really stylized and cool. There's, like, tons of closets. Mm-hmm. Every room has a closet. Big closets. The master bedroom has a walk-in closet and the blue bathroom attached to it. And then those, like, stairs that we saw in that master bedroom that we were like, where do those go to? Go to this giant attic room that, like, is unfinished currently, but, like, I mean, it's not that unfinished. Like, yeah, it's just, like, bare wood livable floors, and there's, like, you can see a like, strip of insulation on the sides, but, like, it would be super livable. High vaulted ceilings. There's a window at the end of the room. It's huge. Makes it essentially a 5-bedroom house instead of 4, which is pretty cool. It's connected to the master bedroom, and that's the only way in. But Gabe actually pointed out one could make a ladder up from the window if they needed a private entrance, or, like,
maybe that's a room where people cycle through as they're having tiny babies to raise and live near or something like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, also we can use that room absolutely however. It could be the art studio, but it's just
Right.
like a whole other room that literally wasn't like talked about on the thing.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful and has just like super good vibes. The bedrooms are all pretty small, but have like sizable closets in each one, and one of them has like a built-in bookshelf.
There's a lot of built-in bookshelves kind of throughout the house, which is nice too.
Mm-hmm.
They have like bad wallpaper that we'd have to fix, obviously. There's lots of outlets. The water pressure seems fine. The kitchen is like, pretty small and shitty. It has this like crazy bright red brick as like its countertop and a really old weird like gas top, stovetop, and like a griddle top as a range, and then like a very small stove or oven,
Yeah.
and so
and no hood over the
no hood
stove.
or ventilation. So the kitchen is like would not really function for more than a couple people for very long. Like it's probably like the least. It's the worst part.
It's the worst part of the house, I
definitely.
think, and I think like it would be. I'd be curious to look into like what does a kitchen remodel cost, or how much can we do on our own as we think more about it. Just because I think like definitely we would have to remodel. That would just be like such a big priority. Although I'll also say like making our outdoor kitchen is a pretty big priority to me. So like having a larger outdoor cooking space can help take some of the pressure off the kitchen being tiny for now or something. But
and there's like a kind of like informal dining space
Mhm.
right next to it that would be super easy to like open up the kitchen into and just get rid of that, because there's also like a dining room which is like smallish, but it has a sliding door that opens up onto the patio. There's like a decent sized living room with a electric fireplace, and then down like past the kitchen kind of is another little living room that also opens up onto the patio and has a wood stove.
Super cozy and has like really soft white like plush carpet. It's just
nice.
like it's like a bed. It's like really nice down there. And then through there's a laundry room, like a really nice, it's smallish, but it's like the washer dryer. There's a sink in the middle and it's got lots of cupboards. And then there's like a quarter bathroom right there. And then you go through the 2-car garage, and the only way to access the basement is through the 2-car garage. And the basement is so cool and weird. It's like, you may have seen those weird ceilings in the image online. Well, that's all like tin, and it kind of comes down the side of the walls too. Something I noticed about the basement was like, it was like the least musty basement-y basement I've ever been in. Like it just felt like
the whole house is just in great shape.
It's in great shape. It's surprising there's like
the windows are all really nice. They're all double
Mhm.
pane. So yeah, there's like no mold in the house, which is amazing. And the basement has like a weird linoleum floor.
And
but
lots
it's like
of closets
big,
again.
There's lots of closets. It has whole walls of bookshelves. There's like a built-in desk. It would be like a great den for kids. Like kid zone, hang out, do whatever the fuck you want down there.
And there's
have
like
all
a
your
little
toys.
nook too that like we could put a bed in for company or whatever.
Yeah, I was even thinking we could like build a loft bed. I don't know why. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, really
Guest
cool
room,
there. I'm thinking about how, like another question that we kind of were advised to ask is like, how quick do properties sell around here? And she sort of made it sound like not that fast, actually. Like county properties tend to take longer because it's like a really specific buyer that is looking to like move to the country. So a pretty special buyer, she said. So, I mean, that's just something to consider. What else? Oh, just that I guess like generally like that Blaine seems to be pretty like old. What was the factoid you read?
Oh, well, on the like website of the thing, you can look at all the demographics of Blaine, and like 50 to 65 is the highest percentage of age. So it's like, yeah, it's an older population for sure. I mean, Yeah, and it's like, I think it's like 98% white. But also it's like very central in a way, like between like Custer, Blaine, Linden, Ferndale. Like there's like grocery stores in all those places, and we're like maybe 10 to 15 minutes from each of those, and then it's really like 25 minutes to the edge of Bellingham. Like it's really close to all the things, and there's like, you know, a co-op in downtown Bellingham, a co-op in northern Bellingham. Like there's plenty of, and there's
amenities.
The farmers market in Bellingham, so, you know, we're not far from amenities like that.
And then I think of like, I mean, Blaine itself is 98% white, maybe in like residents, but I think of in terms of like finding communities of color to be in liberation movements with or what have you. There's like tons of farm workers like all around us, in addition to being right near the Lummi Nation, which, as far as I read on the website, there are, I think, 5,000 Lummi tribal members that live on and around the reservation in the Lummi Nation. So that's some information about the demographics in that way.
And I actually have like a pretty direct connection via an old professor of mine who is, I think, still currently the judge for the Nooksack tribe and was the judge for the Lummi tribe justice system or whatever. So that could be a cool in with getting to know the indigenous folks around.
Yeah, I mean, so I think just maybe more general feelings or impressions or things we've talked about so far are like, I mean, we have noticed in our dynamic that like, and you may have noticed this about us too, that like I tend to be the like, we did it, this is great, I'm so excited, let's buy this house kind of type of person, and Gabe tends to be the more like, cool, that was fun, and like, here are the things that were not perfect about it, and like, let's go look at a bunch more properties now, slow things down. So honoring both of those cool ways of being, kind of wanting to,
but also like I love it and it's amazing, and I'm like, is it ridiculous to be like, let's buy the very first property we ever look at in our entire lives? And yeah, that's part of the difference.
So it'll be fun to talk more about it with all of you, and I think if you have questions based on like this information that we've given you, try to get those to us as soon as possible, because I think it might be great to hold off and wait for your guys' questions before I send an email to Sean to get like the questions that I walked away with answered. But I'd love to have those questions answered by the next meeting so that we can have as much information as possible.
I think we can also like email him as much as we want.
That's true. But what I guess I'm saying is I'll give it like a few days before I email him and let some questions roll in. And like, I don't know, if anybody wants to go look at it again, it's a great place to go. Yep. So, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Do you want to do a little closing thing for us?
I think I just am feeling like excited about this as the next step for our community, and for it to open up a lot of new conversations and to like reopen a lot of the conversations that we've already been having. And yeah, that's all.
Love you all so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.